Hello, I'm Morris Ruddick, and we've been talking about Jewish business secrets. The destiny of Abraham's descendants, of being a blessing to all the peoples of the earth, hit a hurdle within a generation following Jesus' time on the earth. Jesus taught his followers to apply righteous power in corrupt settings. Jesus groomed his inner circle with the creative advantage of the Jews. But this incredible Jewish advantage was culturally stymied. Infiltrators in this new sect called Christianity lost their identity factor that came with the advantage, and with it, they lost the power. In the centuries that followed, the advantage was perverted and divided. The source of the advantage, the Jews, began being ostracized by those seeking the advantage, and the divide widened. Today, however, this advantage is being rebuilt as the identity factor is being restored to both Jews and the followers of Jesus. The crescendo will evolve around the restoration and opportunity that will be found in crisis. The fullness of this advantage will manifest as the crisis builds. On January 15th, 2009, a U.S. Airways flight took off from LaGuardia Airport in New York. A flock of geese they encountered stalled the engines. However, because of the cool-headed response of the pilot to this crisis, they successfully made an unprecedented, unpowered emergency landing on the Hudson River. The New York newspapers called it the miracle on the Hudson, as all 155 passengers survived. The response to a crisis requires immediate reactions based on experience, decisive, creative thinking. Similarly, preparing for a crisis calls for creative, preparatory thinking. During the early 1970s, an Israeli businesswoman had just sold her business and was looking for the next steps in her journey of life. In a series of unusual encounters, she began realizing that Israel had world-class scientists who were sweeping streets, inventors of technologies who were on unemployment. She designed what has become the world's most respected technology incubator program. Operating under Israel's Office of the Chief Scientist, her program began providing the offices, the support, and funding for 2-year programs to develop technologies for commercialization. Not only is Israel now at the top of creating new technologies, but the success ratios and the ratios of startups going public from Rena Prudeur's response to crisis outdistances any other incubator program of its kind. It is written that God will send rain for the seed you sow, and the food in the land will be rich and plentiful. God's nature is to create and bring increase. Abiding in his ways provides a path for his people to spot opportunity, to map out solutions circumventing disasters, and to bring restoration. It is the spiritual DNA of God's people as one generation has passed on this creative advantage to the next. It is written that the secret things belong to the Lord, but those revealed belong to us and to our children. The simple things confound the wise. The simplicity of obedience is in the ways outlined by Moses. I have served as a board member of 2 Israeli-based ministries designed to help the brethren in Israel, and one, a global consortium of Christians and Jews, was organized to collect, then ship to Israel food, clothing, and housewares. Through more than 36 local congregations, these items were dispensed to members of the community, ranging from new immigrants, the elderly, or any in need. The other group dispensed checks for such items as groceries, a fridge, or other essential items represented by largely the same needy members of the community as the first group. This second group also provided interest-free loans for entrepreneurial agendas to help the brethren become self-supporting. Each were bridging a gap between economic downtimes and times of opportunity. By extending a helping hand, they were creating opportunity and strengthening the infrastructure of the community. Jews have a long history of both anticipatory responses to crises and what some have referred to as destructive strategies to restore imbalanced economies. The birth of middle classes in societies without them illustrates these dynamics have begun and been leveraged when the cultural identity of the Jews as a people of God is being demonstrated. So in talking about Jewish business secrets, putting into action the dynamic of this cultural identity of God during a crisis will produce opportunity. It represents the catalyst to the creativity needed for the response. Creativity maps out a strategy that brings an unexpected and positive result. It is in acting with the heart and priorities of God. This is the catalyst the Jewish prophet Isaiah saw to release God's people to serve a critical role in days of crisis as repairers of the breach, a time when the gap is closed. This portends the advantage being applied in closing the gap between the seen world and the unseen world. The story of Joseph demonstrates how, against a backdrop of incredible adversity, with Joseph's identity being in God at the forefront, that God created an unusual alliance between Joseph's culture and the culture of Pharaoh. Through this alliance, opportunity was advanced as the impact of the disaster was sidestepped. The words of Isaiah are pertinent in the swirl of the dislocations, reversals, and uncertainty taking place around the world today. Isaiah said, "Then you will be called the repairers of the breach, restorers of the paths and the dwellings." As a people whose destiny is being blessed by God to extend that blessing to the other peoples of the earth, Jews are the ones destined with the advantage to repair the breach and fix the brokenness. It is during such times that Jews have performed most remarkably. However, there's a caveat. It relates to when these extraordinary people have lost their grip on this identity thing. It represents the other side of the struggle for the advantage that has warred against the Jews over the ages. It is the desire of Jews to be like everyone else. It takes place when the blessings of God are misinterpreted as success from their own making. God made Saul to be king because the people wanted a king like everyone else. Saul's downfall was because instead of truly leading the people according to their mantle as a people of God, he was more intent on wanting the people's approval. He sought the approval of men rather than God, and the people wanted to be like everyone else. This has marked the dividing line of the advantage against being consumed by the destruction raging in the world. Even today, among Jewish believers, there are those whose quest is to pattern their behavior as closely to the Gentile believers as they can, rather than being the example. Serving as a people of God in crisis is both an awesome and humbling task. The destiny to be blessed to be a blessing is not a retreat or a monastic setup. Pharaoh's discernment of Joseph's mantle represents the prophetic crux for the times at hand. As the crises build, so will opportunity, marked by the alliances between the modern-day Pharaohs and Josephs. Then will come the amazing restoration, as alliances such as this provide safe places in a turbulent, chaotic world. There will be wealth transfers facilitated by these alliances, but not for the goal of wealth, but as a byproduct. Success will be defined by the creative advantage, which will be the result of the mindset and the cultural identity factor The naive seek for a quick fix with get-rich-quick schemes. It is a myopic, short-sighted approach that gambles on the seduction of the wealth. Shortcuts to this pathway will lead people astray. David very wisely said that what has cost him nothing would have no value before the Lord. There is a cost for this creative advantage. Jesus pointed out that the one who loses his life will find it. He was pointing to the advantage, the identity in God. The creative advantage is in the identity and response then generated by the identity. And this is Morris Ruddick, and we'll see you in our next session.